Greetings from LA, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. I've been a little bit running behind in my YouTube video making, and I apologize. I've been a little bit under the weather of late, and also compounding that, I've been quite busy with other matters over the past few weeks, so I haven't been able to address certain, say, movie topics on YouTube lately at the pace that I would have otherwise preferred. So I apologize for that in terms of the lateness of my replies or any video uploading and the like. But one of the videos that I wanted to make, but I just didn't get a chance to get around to making the video until now, is with respect to a certain Blu-ray label, a home media label, which is called the Criterion Collection. And it's my understanding that about a little bit over a week ago, on their website, right now it's towards the tail end of February 2025, and a little over a week ago, the Criterion Collection made its announcement with respect to its planned releases for May 2025. And so it's late, I know, but I apologize for the lateness of my video. But if it's okay, let me share with you my initial thoughts and comments with respect to that May 2025 release announcement with respect to those, yes, 2025, May 2025 planned releases from the Criterion Collection. And as always, my dear friends, if you want any information about what the Criterion Collection has to offer, the great Criterion Collection, you can always check the Criterion Collection website directly for more information about the planned releases, write-ups on the plots, cast and crew listing, descriptions about the planned supplements, planned cover art designs, you name it, as well as other titles in the Criterion Collection. If you have any more interest in what those are, please check the Criterion Collection website directly, criterion.com. Directly for more information. But let me just share with you my thoughts and comments now about the planned releases for May. These might change. My impressions might change when we are actually exploring and diving into each of these releases. But for now, these are my initial thoughts and comments with respect to what we have for May. First up, scheduled for release May 6, 2025. And this is a title which actually already currently exists in the Criterion Collection at spine number 959 on a great Blu-ray. And this is the work which is described as being from the year 1967. And the filmmaker's name is Norman Jewison. And the name of the work is In the Heat of the Night. Okay, so In the Heat of the Night is coming to the Criterion Collection again, because as I say, it already has a Blu-ray. It's a great Blu-ray, by the way. But on May 6th, we will have the added option of the 4K plus Blu-ray combo edition of In the Heat of the Night. And so that's what we're getting. So the 4K release, UHD release of In the Heat of the Night. The Blu-ray was already based upon what was described as a 4K digital restoration. So I'm looking at the site right now, and I don't see any indication that suggests to me that the 4K disc in May will be based upon a separate digital restoration of this. So I think maybe we're going to look at the same restoration basis for this new 4K disc, which we already had for the current Blu-ray disc. So it's also available on DVD separately, by the way, as well, which is great. But just keep that in mind. I'm not sure if we're going to see any marked differences. We might, maybe based upon the actual hardware equipment that one employs when watching 4K discs. But we shall see. That will be something to keep in mind when we actually examine the 4K disc. But perhaps, maybe above all, we will have the opportunity once again to explore and to celebrate and to really marvel at this. I mean, it's ever impressive, this work In the Heat of the Night. I mean, it's very topical, and it's very much timed for the moment that it was made in, the mid to late 60s. Or entering into the late 60s. And it is, of course, centered by two I think, equally powerful, equally towering performances that are also counter to each other in such subliminal and sublime, excuse me, and really enriching ways. One being the performance by Rod Steiger, and the other being the performance by Sidney Poitier. So Poitier and Steiger in this, they are a phenomenal combination, and they kind of battle against each other, and their performances, the energy feeds, respectively feed upon each other and feed off each other, and also work with each other. In this incredibly thrilling tale, which is it's a I think a social commentary tapestry. It is also social cultural commentary tapestry. It is also a type of mystery thriller. It's also a police procedural, and it's a very compelling human drama. I mean, it's a classic for many reasons. Many of which I've just even barely begun to touch upon right now in my maybe overly brief description of the film. But this is a great one. The Blu-ray from Criterion from I think a few years back was a great addition to the Criterion Collection, and what it looks like, I don't know if the 4K release is going to be adding anything new in terms of supplements. They were already great, so if we're going to get the same setup of supplements, which I think that's what's going to happen, that's fine. But it'll be an opportunity to explore what is already currently existing, as I said. Maybe it'll go back to that discussion about, is it worth getting this new 4K release if one already has what I consider to be a really great and reliable Blu-ray release? Maybe the answer is yes, maybe the answer is no. It depends on one's viewpoint about these things. But let's try our best to discuss this when the time comes in May. Again, May 6, 2025, a re-release of an incredibly topical and powerful film, which is scheduled for release May 6, Spine number 959, and that work is In the Heat of the Night. Next, scheduled for release also on May 6, 2025, and this is a work which is at Spine number 716, and it is described as being from the year 1964. So this is a film which actually already currently exists in the Criterion Collection on, among other things, on a Blu-ray, also as part of a really wonderful collector's set with regard to the films of this filmmaker, who is the great Jacques Demy. And there's a very great collector's set of Jacques Demy films, which was released by Criterion Collection around this Spine 710s era several years back. And included in that is this film, which is now getting a re-release by Criterion under what is described as a new 4K digital restoration, which sounds very, very incredibly promising indeed. And it's a film, again, as I mentioned, from 1964, and it is Jacques Demy's The Umbrellas of Cherbourg. Oh my goodness. This is one of the classics of cinema. This is one of the most joyous musical films. It is also a sort of heart-pounding, compelling drama. It's a human drama story, and for those of you who know the film, I think you might know what I'm referring to. I mean, this is a delicate film. It is also a sort of spellbinding spectacle of a work that has a great human dramatic touch to it. Not to mention, of course, the richness of sound and color and look of this film, which is all in all magnifique, and in many ways a type of slice of cinema perfection with respect to, among other things, the presentation and also the story, and headed by the great Catherine Deneuve and others in this film, The Umbrellas of Cherbourg. I was very fortunate to have discovered this film in my life fairly early on in my life, in my late teens, and it was quite a kind of in a pleasant way. It was a kind of a shock to my system seeing this. I had not known of Jacques Demy work since this was way before Criterion's Jacques Demy film releases, etc. But I was very fortunate to have caught up with this work, and then little by little tried my best to discover more about Deneuve and also Michel Legrand, about the music composition, also Jacques Demy, etc. slowly but surely. In many ways, it kind of was a foundational point in my own cinema journey to watch this film. It just utterly enchanting as always. I regularly revisit this one thanks to what I consider to be the really sound and reliable Criterion Blu-ray release. But as I say, it looks like we're getting not just a re-release of this in May, under the 4K UHD format, disc format, but we will also be getting what is described as being a new 4K digital restoration. So I'm not sure if we're getting any. I'm not sure if we're getting any new supplements on top of what we have already gotten from Criterion in the past. I think it was around, I want to say maybe several years ago, maybe almost 10 years ago when that happened. But I'm not sure if we're getting anything new in terms of supplements. But it'll be interesting to see how how this looks and sounds in terms of the restoration and also the DTS HD master audio. So looking forward to this in terms of a comparative analysis. In my own crude and subjective way, how I look at these things, and then perhaps above all else, just being able to revisit, re-enter the world of the Umbrellas and Cherbourg. I don't know, I've seen this countless times, so add another one to that list of countless times that I've seen this film when I watch this, hopefully in May. So again, May 6th, 2025, this is the re-release of the work, which is, and I'm loving the cover art design, by the way. It looks utterly splendid. And this is the work which is, again, spine number 716, and this is The Umbrellas of Cherbourg. And next, scheduled for release May 13th, 2025. And this is a Janus Contemporaries release. So this is good. This is interesting because when I usually make these Criterion release announcement videos, I usually do them on the day or maybe the day after of the release announcement date, like around the 15th of each month. At that time, usually the Janus Contemporaries releases won't be listed on the site at the time. They'll be listed kind of later. And so I won't have a chance to talk about my initial reaction to the Janus Contemporaries planned releases for, say, that month. But this time, since I'm making this video somewhat late, by now, the Janus Contemporaries planned release for May is now up on the website. So that's really cool. So I'm glad to see that. So I get a chance to talk about it a little bit. It's a film, or it's a set of films, which I haven't seen yet. Again, scheduled for release May 13th, 2025. And the films are from 1982 and 2023 respectively. And this is from Wim Wenders and Lubna Pleust, excuse me. And the Wenders film from 1982 is Room 666, and the Pleust film from 2023 is Room 999. And this is Room 666, Room 999. It's sort of a combo release. It's described as a set. So this is I think it's the first time that the Janus Contemporaries lineup is including a sort of multi-film release in its lineup so far. So this is really fantastic. There was, I think, I want to say, in one of the previous, most recent Wenders releases, because there have been a number of Wim Wenders film releases that occurred, I think, around the tail end or the latter half of 2024 last year. And Room 666 and Room 999 was actually, there was a brief glimpse of it in one of the featurettes, or maybe a clip in an interview, I forget exactly, in one of those Wim Wenders films that was released by Criterion or Janus Contemporaries in late 2024. So this was sort of hinted at, I think, if you read the cards in that way. I mean, I had no way of knowing. I'm realizing that now as I see this announcement. So I was not in any way predicting this kind of release at all. But now that I see this release, I realize that perhaps they were giving us a clue when I didn't even realize it. But this is fantastic news. I haven't seen, for instance, Room 999. I know that this has a kind of sort of almost experimental meta type of quality to it. So, in terms of filmmaking itself, or the cinema itself. So, Room 666, Room 999, Janus Contemporary's release. The Blu-ray, it says one disc Blu-ray, so I'm assuming therefore both films will be on one disc, which is fine with me. Janus Contemporaries don't usually have a large quantity of supplements. Usually, what they'll have is maybe have a trailer, and then they'll have a Meet the Filmmakers interview set from the filmmakers themselves. So I think that's what's going to happen here. Yes, it says Meet the Filmmakers, a new interview with Room 999 director Lubna Blues. So, and then the trailer, that's what it says here. So so the films are going to be two films on a single disc, Blu-ray or DVD. So very exciting for this. I'm very inexperienced with the films that come in the Janus Contemporaries lineup. I find that I haven't seen the films, so the Janus Contemporaries lineup always excites me in terms of the discoveries. I haven't been disappointed at once in terms of. There are some films in the Janus Contemporaries lineup that I like more than others, but I think overall it's been really wonderful, and haven't been disappointed at all yet. So I'm certainly confident, very, very confident, that Room 666 and Room 999 will continue that trend for me. So this is Room 666, Room 999, scheduled for release May 13th, 2025. Next, scheduled for release also May 13th, 2025, and this is for Spine number 1261. The name of the filmmaker is Abbas Kiarostami. Oh, and this is described as being a film from 1999 from Abbas Kiarostami. Wow. The name of the film is The Wind Will Carry Us. The Wind Will Carry Us. It's described as being a 4K restoration. I know this film has seen releases before. I don't have the most recent release prior to this upcoming Criterion release, but I have seen this film a number of times. And I remember when I first saw it kind of early on. This was because, Kiarostami films, at least my understanding, in, say, North America, there was a real, I felt, at least from my perspective, there was a real kind of huge resurgence, if you will, or emergence of the name Kiarostami around the mid to late 1990s. And people were beginning to discover Kiarostami's works, at least the ones that were becoming available for watch, such as, among other things, now, one might take for granted some great releases from labels such as the Criterion Collection, like of what is known as, say, the Coker trilogy from Kiarostami, that also sees a great Criterion box set release, by the way, from a few years back. Great, by the way. But those films were kind of beginning to become available to watch on VHS tape. Not immediately available, but you would get, they were not impossible to see. And so one by one, you'd slowly get a sense of who Kiarostami and what his films were. And then amongst that, around the I want to say early 2000s or so, I remember being able to watch The Wind Will Carry Us for the first time. And that was, I think, also on a VHS tape at the time. And so it was a kind of it was a very inspiring, unsettling, and quite a provocative film. I think how should I put it? Kiarostami's films, and I think The Wind Will Carry Us is in many ways the prime example of this. Kiarostami's films are like a heightened drama full of heart and sorrow and grave implications of life and death that are also premised upon the infinitesimal, the infinite, and also the minute and minuscule, which can also be said to be sort of the minutiae of ordinary life that is also quite extraordinary, but also compounded by, how should I put it, the kind of three-dimensional plane by which cinema and reality can either coexist or correlate to each other or totally be at odds with each other. So it's actually getting at the heart of what it is to not just watch a film, but also what it is to maybe engage with the film. And what I mean by this, what it is for us, the viewer, to actually be watching a film, and what happens when a film can actually talk back to you or have a kind of dialogue with you as you're watching it, which is in many ways a hallmark of Kurosami's films. And I would say The Wind Will Carry Us is getting to that wonderful sense of dialogue in ways that are, at least to my mind, profound. They don't yield easy answers, and there's a sense of life and death, and everything in between, infused in this. It's a very tender film. It's also very complex, and that's just the way I like it when I watch my Kurosami films. And this is as I say, one of the great prime examples of his work. So The Wind Will Carry Us, coming to the Criterion Collection, to join, as I must say, the other great Kurosami films that are in the collection already. And there are quite a few. So this is going to be joining in on that catalog, I think, very nicely and very much in keeping with the catalog. So I'm looking at the site right now, and it says 4K restoration, and it also says Blu-ray discs. So the only physical media option for this release will be the single disc Blu-ray. So it's too bad there won't be, for instance, a DVD option, but oh well, c'est la vie, as they say. But we also have a number of supplements to accompany us when we explore this great film from Kurosami. Again, this is Spy Number 1261, and this is The Wind Will Carry Us. Okay, next, scheduled for release May 20th, 2025. So that's 1 day shy of my birthday. I was born on the 21st of May, so this is going to be a nice birthday present. From the Criterion Collection. I'm not going to get it. I'm going to buy the film, but in terms of the release anyway, it's going to be a great little birthday gift, in a manner of speaking, of a film which is described as being from the year 1989, and it's Spy Number 120. This is a film that had been in the Criterion Collection, but it fell out of print. But oh my goodness, Criterion seems to be answering my birthday wishes in a manner of speaking. In terms of reintroducing a film back from the OOP void. And this is a film which is from the filmmaker Bruce Robinson. And we'll hear more about Bruce Robinson later in this video, by the way. But first up here is the great film from '89 with Richard E. Grant. And we'll also talk about Richard E. Grant a little bit later in this video as well. But first up is How to Get Ahead in Advertising. This is a wild film. This is a just off the charts wild film. It is just no holds barred. It is intense. It's kind of wacky, rubbery, surreal type of quality to it, with Richard E. Grant just in full Richard E. Grant mode. There's a reason why Richard E. Grant's films and Bruce Robinson's films and How to Get Ahead in Advertising and others are just so beloved and cherished and watched over again, as they do, because they just are, I think, timelessly funny, and also classic in that wonderful, charming, brilliant way. How to Get Ahead in Advertising is one of the greats. It's great to see it back here in the Criterion Collection. It was greatly missed, but now it's back, so it'll be great to see it. I have the DVD on the shelf over there. Maybe I'll be sure to show it when we explore this Blu-ray release. I'll try to remember that. But this is kind of like this film, How to Get Ahead in Advertising. I mean, this would make a great double bill with a film like Wall Street. There was a similar film from the 80s called Wall Street. So if you watched Wall Street and you watched How to Get Ahead in Advertising, I think that would be a great double bill. Maybe How to Get Ahead in Advertising first and then Wall Street second. I don't know. It's your choice. But in any event, How to Get Ahead in Advertising is coming back to the Criterion Collection. Woohoo! Spy Number 120, based upon what's described here as a 2K digital restoration. supervised by the director of photography. And then some new documentary mentions here in terms of supplements. So it'll be interesting to see about that. So the first Bruce Robinson film we'll be talking about today, one of the greats. It is, again, scheduled for release May 20th, 2025. It's How to Get Ahead in Advertising. Next, another Bruce Robinson film, scheduled for release also on May 20th, 2025. This is Spy Number 119, described as being from the year 1987. It also stars Richard E. Grant and also Paul McGann. It is one of the, it's got one of the great casts. I mentioned Paul McGann, Richard E. Grant, Richard Griffith's in it. Ralph Brown is in it. Oh my goodness, Michael Elphick is in it. It's great. When I think about Paul McGann and Ralph Brown, for instance, I always think about also the film that was released a little bit later called Alien 3. So I always just think Alien 3 and with this film. I was going to mention the title before I was going to mention the title. My goodness. This is the film which is from Bruce Robinson, the great film, WITHNAIL and I. WITHNAIL and I. And, I'm also very much appreciative of how one should pronounce the name. Is it WITHNAIL and I or WITHNAIL and I? And I even love that dialogue as well. So WITHNAIL and I. Oh, my goodness. I discovered this film, WITHNAIL and I, rather late in my life. It came, not so late, actually. I was still young. So many years ago, but it was it's a very bizarre film. I love it for its bizarre take, and there's a kind of a hint of cruelty and utterly over the top wittiness, and the cleverness of dialogue, and also a kind of acerbic wit, and there is also a sense of an undercurrent of cynicism that's also maybe counterbalanced by a sense of a friendship and caring, and also this idea of the present and the future, and almost a sense of where does one go, where does one go but down from here? That kind of sense of maybe unbounded cynicism. But before we fall into the abyss, let's just have one more drink, or two, or three, or 100. That kind of unknowingly or perhaps knowingly chaotic bliss, or blissful chaos, that is at the center of this at once intimate but also maelstrom of a comedy of a film, WITHNAIL and I. And this is just I love it too, I should say. It's also incredibly tender and very, very moving. It is incredibly moving, this film is. It is very layered in that way. It is also one of the classics of British cinema. It is there's also this way in which, films, there would be an interesting, maybe, area of cinematic discussion, where one could talk about how imbibing alcohol or drinking, how the actual act of drinking as a sort of social current or as a kind of maybe something other is depicted in cinema. Maybe drinking in cinema. I could imagine, if that hasn't been done already, that being a great essay or a great book or whatever it might be. If that were ever the case, I would imagine that WITHNAIL and I would be on the top of that list of films that would be discussed in that kind of book or tome or whatever, among other things. This is this is one of the classics of modern cinema, and for good reason. And it's kind of like it's just this absurdist, almost nightmarish. There's some parts of it that are really scary and quite frightening, and just off the wall funny, and then just little bits of dialogue that you hear, and like, did I just hear that? And it kind of processes in my mind, and then I realize how funny it is, and just I kind of have this late reaction to it. And I just love that type of interaction with film. So, and this is a prime example of this. So I love this WITHNAIL and I. It's described as being a new 4K digital restoration, as I said, Or did I say that? I'm not sure. But and also I should say that this had been, I think, in the Criterion Collection under a DVD, together with How to Get Ahead in Advertising, at spine numbers 119 and 120 respectively. But they fell out of print. But now they're back. And I mentioned How to Get Ahead in Advertising just previously, and now WITHNAIL. Now, WITHNAIL now is going to be re-released on a Blu-ray, or you can, and it's going to be on a 4K Blu-ray 2-disc combo. So it's going to be coming back from OOP Void in what I hope is, I mean, it's great. It's got that wonderful, Ralph Steadman artwork there to boot. So there's much to love about this, and it'll be great to go back into this world, the dark, funny, cynical and tender world of Bruce Robinson's WITHNAIL and I. Next, scheduled for release May 27th, 2025. Oh my gosh, my brain is already like melting from all this great Criterion news for May, and my birthday month, no less. So I'm just, is it not over yet? There's still more. My goodness, I'm keep them coming, Criterion, keep them coming. This is great. So again, May 27th, 2025. This next release is designated spine number 1263. There are two films here, one from 73, one from 74. And they are both from the filmmaker, the director, Richard Lester. And the first film from 1973 is called The Three Musketeers. And the second film is called The Four Musketeers in this release, which is described as The Three Musketeers, The Four Musketeers, two films by Richard Lester. So The Three Musketeers and The Four Musketeers film, this is, oh, wow, gosh. This is something else. This is something else indeed. I love these films. I absolutely love these films. Richard Lester's works are, I think, classics, and he's done a number of films that are just, for instance, A Hard Day's Night, which is also filmed in the Criterion Collection. So these won't be the first Richard Lester films to be in the Criterion Collection, that's for sure. But it's great to have a growing Richard Lester film collection. The Three Musketeers and the Four Musketeers. I don't see any inclusion of The Return of the Musketeers from several years after the fact, but that it would have been interesting to have included a third film in this. But oh well, that's okay, because in many ways, especially in terms of the proximity in which they were made, in terms of the production schedule, they were kind of made around the same time, and so the Three Musketeers and the Four Musketeers divided into these two films. And so when you watch the films, I mean, they feel like they are separate entities, and they also feel like when you watch them, you can watch them back to back and be engrossed in a kind of one singular epic of the story of this. I mean, it's a wonderful story. I remember watching The Three Musketeers for the first time on TV, and it was just a great, what do they call it, swashbuckling epic of a film. And I had already known the Three Musketeers story, but I didn't know all the details of the story, but I'd known a little bit of the story, and then I watched the Three Musketeers, and I was watching it, and then the way that it goes through is so exciting, and when it ends, you want to watch more. You know what I mean? So, and that's when I heard about the Four Musketeers, which is a sort of continuation of the Three Musketeers story. I couldn't find the Four Musketeers. I remember I was searching the longest time to find the Four Musketeers. I couldn't find it. It wasn't on TV, whenever it was I was watching it. So I could only watch the Three Musketeers story for the longest time as a kid, until somewhat later. I was still, I was older, but I was still young. I happened upon the Four Musketeers as a rental or something, and it was incredible. And it kind of had a similar tone in terms of continuation of the story of the Three Musketeers, but also has a kind of other side of the coin, almost duality, which is a great counterpoint to what one might describe as maybe the buoyant levity, the fun, swashbuckling entertainment brilliance of the Three Musketeers. Not to say that the Four Musketeers isn't equally as entertaining. It's wonderfully entertaining, but there's a sense of a of a balanced darkness to it film, which is such a great counterbalance. I mean, the way that these two films counteract with each other, as well as being their own elemental things, I think is what makes the combination of the Three Musketeers and the Four Musketeers so entertaining, so grand, so brilliant. And so to have it in this combined collection here was great. Again, if they had only had the Return of the Musketeers, which came somewhat later, but that might have been an interest, even as maybe a supplement or something like that, it would have been great. But oh well, c'est la vie. The Three Musketeers and the Four Musketeers was described as being new 4K digital restorations, which is very interesting. Really great, really great. I want to say too, just the cast of these films is just it's like these. If you just read the cast list, I mean, they're among the, like these. This is the most classic cast list of any any film ever. I mean, to be able to watch a film like as a little boy with this kind of caliber cast, it's great. So Michael York, Oliver Reed, Geraldine Chaplin, Christopher Lee, Charlton Heston, as well as other people like Faye Dunaway, Michael Gothard, Roy Kinnear, Raquel Welch, Jean-Pierre Cassel, Frank Finlay, Richard Chamberlain. Oh my goodness, I'm forgetting so many. That's just the start of it. So you're getting so much, and it's got that witty flavor to it. You know, there's a kind of quirky, witty absurdity to the way that the comic scenes play out. They almost have this quirky slapstick quality about it, which is so wonderful, so great. Richard Lester has this knack. He has the knack for comic timing in this slapstick sensibility type of way, which is so wonderful, so on its top prime form in these two films. And also there's a sense of perspective and also spectacle. And the great balance, as I mentioned, there's all these. I mean, the Three Musketeers story itself is very complex, and it has many levels, both on a sort of broad political level, and also in terms of the direct story of the Musketeers and D'Artagnan and Athos, Porthos, and Aramis, and all that has, and all the other characters that may or may not have more to do with the underlying human core of the story. And if you want to know more, you got to watch the two films to know what I'm talking about. But there's a lot here. This is like, and it's like twists and turns galore. Wow. And the like. So, but any event, the Three Musketeers, and there are a lot of surprises. Let me just say, there are a lot of surprises in the Three Musketeers and the Four Musketeers. So, go in, if you haven't seen these films, go in expecting a great time, but also, brace yourself. Oh, it's just it's like a roller coaster. This is great. So, I am very excited for this release. The Three Musketeers and the Four Musketeers release. It's scheduled to be, again, May 27th. You can get your choice of a 4-disc 4K and Blu-ray combo release or the 2-disc Blu-ray release. So there's no DVD release here, unfortunately, but that's okay. C'est la vie. We're going to get Richard Lester goodness, more Richard Lester goodness in the Criterion Collection, courtesy of these two films, The Three Musketeers and The Four Musketeers. My dear friends, are you like me? Is your mind blown already by all this great Criterion goodness in May? I am. I'm ready to pack it in. I mean, I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a completely great way. I'm ready to pack because I'm already full. But what is the expression, right? My cup is not just full, now it runneth over, because also scheduled for release May 27th, 2025. This is scheduled for spine number or designation for spine number 1262. This is a film which is described as being from the year 1978, and the name of the filmmaker is Charles Burnett. Oh, wow. The name of the film is Killer of Sheep. So, Killer of Sheep, and you're going to get a choice of a Blu-ray single disc or a 2-disc 4K Blu-ray for a film or release which is described as being a new 4K digital restoration of Charles Burnett's Killer of Sheep from, my goodness, yes, at the late 70s. Although it didn't get a kind of full release until many, many years later. And I was so lucky because when I was an adult, this was around, I want to say it was around, gosh, it was, I remember seeing this film in the theater when it got a re-release many, many, many years after it had been originally made back in the late 70s. And I had known nothing at the time about Charles Burnett. I had known nothing about Killer of Sheep, but and I was living in New York at the time. But I had just heard about this. Maybe I saw it in a magazine or newspaper or something. It said coming for a short time at such and such a theater somewhere in Manhattan somewhere. It was in maybe an art house theater or something. It was Killer of Sheep. You've got to be able to see. It's one of the classics of American cinema. I had no idea what it was, but my curiosity was piqued, very much piqued, and so I decided to go see it. I went by myself. I bought the ticket. I went to the theater. I sat down, and I was incredibly moved by this work. There's a lot that I couldn't quite comprehend at the time that I saw it, and even now, and then I was able to get it on a disc. It was a DVD disc. I was able to get it and just revisit it every so often. There's a tenderness, a quality to it. There's a almost a sense of time moving, and also a sense of time standing still in this film. There is a sense of things outside the frame of the film that have these the pull of history, and a sense that things may or may not be all's well that ends well at the end of the day. But there's also this innate beauty of the film Killer of Sheep when you see it, and there's a kind of heart at its core in terms of the family dynamic, the parents and children, and not just the parents and children, but also between this couple, and how this is expressed in movements and images and sounds and music in a way that is not just very informative, but poetic beauty that maybe is beyond what words might be able to achieve otherwise. It is that kind of powerful film. And it is I feel so lucky to have been able to see this in the theater when it had been re-released back then. It has there is, as I say, a swell, sort of the swelling of history, a kind of immediate history that is bubbling beneath its surface. That is also, I think, informing a lot of the story that's being told. It is an enthralling, beautiful, majestic film that deserves to be seen by as many people as possible if it hasn't been that already. And if the Criterion Collection release at the end of May can get more people to see this majestic film, I think that's cause for, that itself is cause for celebration. This has been released, as I say, on previous DVD releases. I think back in the day before it hasn't been the most readily available film, but now we made quite readily available, courtesy of Criterion May's releases. So one of the great films, and it's stunning to get this news. Absolutely stunning to get this news. Yeah. Killer of Sheep is coming to the Criterion Collection. Again, based upon what's described as a new 4K digital restoration approved by director Charles Burnett himself. So, and we're also getting 2 short films with that as well. So, there you go. Coming to the Criterion Collection May 27th. Killer of Sheep. Oh my, oh my! That's a lot of Criterion goodness packed in 1 month. And some of them are multi-film releases. So the Janus Contemporaries release, and also the Lester films, the Musketeers films. Um, there's a lot to process here. There's a lot to digest. This feels like a full meal, or like you go to a restaurant and you see what they have. You haven't been there you're going there for the first time. You look at their menu and you're like, my goodness, this is a great menu. It's like that. This is like you go into a restaurant and you find one of the greatest menus that you've ever been able to see. It's like everything on the menu looks great. You want to order everything. So where can I begin? I mean, there are a number of re-releases. So maybe among the re-releases, I'm not sure. Again, I don't know. Again, about whether it would be quote unquote worth it end quote to get the 4K of In the Heat of the Night if one already has the Blu-ray. But let's have that conversation. I mean, that's not true just of this, but it's also true of a number of other 4K releases from Criterion and other non-Criterion labels here. We can also make that point as well. But that's always part of the discussion when one is talking about a film that's getting a re-release on a quote-unquote newer format, end quote. But that's not taking away anything from the brilliance of the film. And among anything, any kind of takeaway we can take away is at the very least, we'll be able to dive into that great film again, In the Heat of the Night. As I mentioned before, that's sort of a slice of perfection that is The Umbrellas of Cherbourg. It's an absolute treat, So this is another one to jump into. And then Janus Contemporaries, Room 666, Room 999. Janus Contemporaries continues to excel and excite. I'm learning many new things every time I encounter this one. So this I know will be no exception to that. And then let's go to the other re-release of WITHNAIL and How to Get Ahead in Advertising. Just thinking about the prospect of seeing those back in the Criterion Collection. I mean, I already have the discs, but seeing just they're going to get officially re-released. That alone just puts a huge. That makes me smile so much. I'm so happy to get that news. Really am. Those are wild films in their own ways. So. And then more Kiarostami goodness in the hands of the release of The Wind Will Carry Us. In many ways, a kind of sublime example of the Kiarostami greatness. And then another great filmmaker, Richard Lester, whose films, The Three Musketeers, The Four Musketeers, maybe I would say, I mean, I love many Richard Lester's films, but I think maybe for me, what maybe almost the perfect embodiment of Richard Lester's work in terms of the crossover between quote unquote mainstream entertainment end quote and kind of the Richard Lester touch, I think could be said to be in the Three Musketeers, Four Musketeers films, at least from my vantage point. I mean, there are many other great examples of Richard Lester's films. I'm a huge fan of his work, but I love these films. So. And then one of the most majestic examples of cinema from the 70s. It's one of the great films of American cinema. This is one of the great films of American cinema, period. Burnett's Killer of Sheep. This is again, May is my birthday month. So I'm very, very pleased. I'm very pleased with this. And pleasantly surprised all around. I'm loving this incredibly so. So these are the releases. I should point out that for some of the releases, again, for some, not all, we see the DVD format still alive, still there. Not as prominent as I would like to see it. I'd like to see more DVD releases where possible, but again, I can't complain too much. And we see the 4K format being employed, again, not in all spaces, but it's continuing to thrive and maybe getting stronger and more prevalent, which might be a further indication of the the state of the marketplace, etc. But there are also Blu-ray only releases, standalone Blu-ray only releases here in the fold as well. So a number of re-releases, a number of new releases, and then the Janus Contemporaries. So and then the multi-film releases. So very, very healthy indeed. At the moment, I don't see, as I say, any huge box set yet from Criterion. No, that might come later in the year. That's okay. I'm more than content with what we're seeing this year. And May is a great example of this. So I'm very, very pleased with this. So these are the May releases, upcoming May releases, 2025. From the Criterion Collection. For more information, more details, you can check out the website, the Criterion website directly. So don't take my word for it. So you can check out the website and then let me know your thoughts and comments. Even if you're kind of meh or not so enthusiastic, and you're disappointed, you can let me know. Or if you're on the opposite end of the spectrum and you're really, really excited and enthusiastic, please let me know as well. Or anywhere in between, please let me know. I'd love to hear what it is you have to say. So, my dear friends, thank you so much. And until the next video, please continue to be happy and healthy and well. And please keep on watching a lot of great, great, great movies, including the films in the Criterion Collection, including films outside of the Criterion Collection, movie theaters, streaming, drive-in theaters, you name it. The sky's the limit when it comes to cinema. So I hope you find what it is you're looking for and enjoy the heck out of it, whatever it may be. But until the next video, my dear, dear friends, stay strong, stay safe, and cheers.